Thank you, Will. All right, we're going to go ahead and start here. And yes, my name is Denise Fernandez. I actually do supervise the protective class program here at Cal Coast. And that is including all members 60 years and older. So we're going to go ahead and start with our slides here. What is elder abuse? Definition. It is a single or repeated act causing harm to an elder adult. Unfortunately, we do see this, and other aspects of abuse also. Impact: victims often experience declining health, isolation, and financial insecurity. Um, Prevalence: one in 10 Americans age 60 and over, protective class, experience some form of elder abuse in many different forms. It can be physical, financial. Financial costs: seniors lose approximately $3 million annually. I think it's over $3 million annually to financial exploitation. And we're going to be going into some more specific examples for you. The types of elder abuse: physical abuse, and this would be inflicting pain or injury through hitting, pushing, or inappropriate restraint. There is emotional abuse, verbal assaults, threats, intimidation, or humiliation. Financial abuse: unauthorized use of funds, property theft, or fraudulent transactions. This is what we tend to see here at Cal Coast with our members. And again, there are some examples that we're gonna show you. Neglect: the failure to hide basic needs like food, hygiene, or medication. And then, of course, sexual abuse, which is non-consensual sexual contact of any kind. Yeah, warning signs to watch for. The physical indicators are unexplained bruises or injuries, poor hygiene, or untreated medical issues, weight loss or malnutrition, pressure sores, or skin damage. Here at Cal Coast, we know our members, and we do get to see them on a regular basis. So these would be all signs to inquire, to ask why, ask questions, and you'll, if this happens to occur. Behavioral changes: withdraw from activities, unusual fear around caregivers, depression or anxiety, and confusion or disorientation. We actually do see sometimes where our members are afraid of the person that's accompanying them at the branch. We can, since we don't know our members very well, we can tell a difference in their personality. The encounter itself is different. So those are our behavioral changes that we do detect occasionally here at Cal Coast. Go ahead.
No, I
Did
was
you want
just
to
going to
say something?
expand on that really quickly. I'm glad we cover this aspect of it because, although we're very versed in the financial abuse side of that, and that's what we commonly see, it is, it's great that, we're also, our frontline staff is also on the lookout for those physical indicators too. That's kind of sometimes often the first indicator that financial fraud may happen, right? When they're coming in with someone new or, acting erratically or having, different behavior. That's often a first sign to kind of avoid those subsequent abuse, indicators like financial fraud. So great that you're pointing that out, Denise. I just wanted to piggyback off of that.
Thank you, Stephanie. Some of the financial red flags is definitely sudden changes in banking habits, and these are an onset of transactions that are completely outside of our members' normal banking practices. It could be sudden cash withdrawals back to back. It could be heavy casino activity on their account, which they never had before. It could be debit card withdrawals that we're seeing on a member's account that are large amounts at department stores, things like that. That would definitely be the sudden changes, abrupt changes. Unusual or unexplained withdrawals, absolutely. If they're walking in and now asking for cash, large amounts of cash, which they never did before. Missing valuables, at times, if a member states, my jewelry is missing, or anything of value that they once had, and now are complaining that it's gone. It's not there any longer. A new best friend showing interest, yes, this is very important. At times, when members walk into our branches and they're accompanied by someone other than our members, someone on the account, we ask that other person that accompanies them to take a seat in the lobby. We never want to discuss our members' financial accounts or any financial information in front of a stranger, in front of someone that's not on the account. So if they're not joint on the account, if they don't have a power of attorney on the account, we will ask them to take a seat in the lobby and discuss, our member's account solely with our member. Common financial scams. So I want to give you some examples on these because these do happen. Unfortunately, we have seen this happen. The grandparent scam, of course, is it could be a phone call that our protected class member receives from law enforcement or an attorney stating that their grandchild was in an accident, or there's an emergency. They need to pay bond, bail. And they'll prey on the victim, and there's a sense of urgency always, to get this money to them. Whenever our members if you are approached by phone, online, what you want to do is take the information, name, phone number, and then agency that they're calling from, and then say, okay, I'll go ahead and verify that, and I'll call you back. And then we want you to actually verify. We want you to seek the phone number, or the email, or the contact information from the agency. If they're calling you from the IRS, then you want to contact your tax preparer, your tax consultant. You want to verify that, what they're saying is true, or if it's false. If it's a grandchild, you want to call the grandchild and talk to them personally. Are you in danger? Are you, so we definitely want our members to verify the validity of that phone call or that email before they follow through with any instructions whatsoever. Romance scams, they do happen. They happen actually at any age, any gender. Romance scams happen all the time. It's a contact through social media. It starts off very friendly. It starts off, maybe it could be someone abroad that doesn't live in the United States and is now asking you for money. So there's multiple different ways for them to ask you for money. You can wire the funds to them. You can withdraw cash and mail it to them. You can buy gift cards and give them the information on the gift cards. There's multiple different ways that they can scam you. But romance scams are definitely on the uprise, and they actually will. There isn't any specific age or gender, or it's across the board on romance scams. Government impersonation. I do want to add, there are people that will impersonate government officials, but they also will impersonate employees from your bank, from your financial institution. So if you do get a call, or if you're contacted, your text, your email, whatever it might be, and it's a government official, it's a representative from your bank, you want to, again, take the information down, their name, their contact, and say, okay, let me go ahead and verify this, and I'll call you right back. And then you immediately want to contact that government agency, that law enforcement agency, your bank, your financial institution, and make sure that this is a legitimate call that's coming in, or or the questions that they're asking you. You never want to follow through without verifying the legitimacy of that contact. Lottery and sweepstakes scams. Yep, they happen. They happen here. Our members will receive at times letters that say that they have won a sweepstake. They'll get texts stating that they won. You know, it can be anything from your state lottery to any. It can be a company abroad. It can be a foreign. There's so many different ways these lottery scams work. But what they'll usually do is that before you can claim your winnings, they will ask you for a lump sum, an amount, so that you can prepay those taxes for that winning that you're about to receive. So again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that it is legitimate. You definitely want to, if you get something in the mail, you know, you can have it verified. You can bring it into our branch. You could take it to your financial institution, have them take a look at it, see if it's legitimate. You can contact the agency or try to contact the company that is actually sending that to you. You just want to verify the legitimacy of the transaction or the request.
And I was going to add to that a bit, with advances in artificial intelligence, which I know is, talked about a lot right now, a lot of these scams look very reputable, right? They're very convincing. It's not like years past where you could, spot the typo, or the incomplete sentence from a mile away, right? These are very convincing. Often, they may call from your grandchild's phone number, right? So you think that it's legitimate, and it may sound like your grandchild because maybe they've stolen some of that voice data and are using AI to kind of depict your grandchild's voice. I always say, like, trust but verify, right? Trust, you could take the call seriously, or the information seriously, but always verify, right? A lot of these legitimate companies, or if someone's calling pretending to be your bank or a government agency, right? If it is a legitimate call and you say, I don't trust this call, I want to call you back, legitimate companies are really receptive to that, especially these days. Like, completely understandable. Here, contact our public line. You can ask for me. Here's my extension, right? Just to give you a little bit more reassurance. But if you get that immediate reaction of, like, don't hang up, no, this is a serious call. If you hang up, you could be arrested. Like, we see all sorts of different tactics that they'll take, but most of which they're just prying off of that emotion. They're trying to, exploit that emotion, that reaction. And, we just ask that, you take a second, you reflect on that conversation. If you are getting emotional about it, that's usually the first cue that something's wrong, right? So always hang up, always give a call. And like I said, most of these reputable companies have been through this. I personally have experienced me calling a member and that I don't trust who you are. Great. I'm almost excited when I get that reaction because, it tells me that, that person is educated about scams and fraud and is doing the right thing. So I just wanted to add that there.
Thank you. Mhm. Escalating threat of cash fraud. So, cash scams, fraudsters may ask for cash payments, often stressing some type of emergency to deliver the funds. When scammers prey on their victims, they will orchestrate they will actually give you specific instructions on how to go about getting that money to them. And a lot of times it will be cash. It will be cash, withdraw cash from your account, and then either mail it to them. They'll give specific instructions to wrap the currency in aluminum foil and then put it in a box and then mail it to, they'll be very specific. They will send couriers out to your home. They will meet you in a location to pick up the cash. They will, once you withdraw the cash, they may direct you to a Bitcoin machine and actually walk you through the procedures on how to funnel that money through a Bitcoin machine. There's multiple ways of them trying to get that cash. But again, for us at the credit union, that red flag is when our members ask or start asking for large amounts of cash. But those are some ways that the cash can get to them. Um, Wire transfers, yes, they will ask you sometimes to wire the funds. Again, the sense of urgency. Wires are almost immediate. So they'll ask you to wire the funds. They could ask you to wire the funds to someone else in the United States, and then that person will wire the money to the fraudsters. So if they're asking you to wire to an individual rather than a company, or if or vice versa, you can definitely you want to research that first before going through with it. Online credentials, Stephanie?
Yeah, I'll just quickly cover on the cash, or kind of the slide in general. This has been very popular target for fraudsters right now. We're seeing a lot of them targeting guaranteed funds. They want the cash, they want the wire, they, are trying to get full access to your accounts, or, you'll see at the end of the slide, Bitcoin is becoming very common. So, just to touch a little bit more on the wire side, we've seen instances where individuals will be trying to send a wire for a legitimate purpose, but that wire was intercepted, the account information was changed. We always encourage, individuals sending out wires, again, even for legitimate purposes, to confirm the wiring instructions. Because once those funds are gone, the recovery rate is very minimal. Luckily we do have other credit unions and banks out there that are just as passionate about deterring fraud and recovery efforts too, but sometimes, their hands are tied as well. I will say, touching on the cash and wire activity, a lot of those targeting large dollar amounts are typically done at the branch. And the branch staff is typically going to ask you questions, and that is, that's intentional. We're trying to, help educate our members about the types of fraud scenarios, but we're not trying to pry about your personal, transactions with no intention behind it. It's really to try to deter the fraud activity. So, we ask, share with your family and friends, that those questions are intentional, and it's to deter that activity. And we just really want to stop the fraud from happening. So, you know, please be as open and honest as possible. And to Denise's point too, a lot of that the scenarios we see is the individuals are being coached on what to say, right? So then when we're asking questions and that individual hasn't been coached to how to address that particular question, that's usually where we're seeing a break in the scam being uncovered. As far as online credentials, we see a lot of that targeted very often over the last couple of years. Our main messaging here is that your online credentials are for you and only you. The bank does not need your online credentials. The IRS does not need your online credentials. The police does not need your online credentials. That should be safeguarded. And, there are typically, a lot of multi-factor authentication in place to prevent someone from trying to get into your online banking. We ask that you read those thoroughly. When we're sending you a passcode, or your other financial institutions are sending you a passcode, that you're not providing that to anyone, especially when it says do not provide to anyone, right? Including your bank, right? If the your financial institution would never need that information when they're sending it to you. So be very wary of that, anyone asking for sensitive information like that. And not just your bank, anything that might have sensitive information on it. Be very wary of those requests. And I will jump into Bitcoin too, just to complete the slide here. We see often, I think a very common theme is individuals are being told either it's for an investment, right, that they're investing in some sort of Bitcoin, but we also see individuals take out cash and put it in a Bitcoin machine. That's growing in popularity. We've seen, anything from put it in the machine to protect your accounts, and you're depositing into a safe account. We'll hold it in the Bitcoin until, you can open a new account. Obviously that's not true. Or we'll also see instances in which the individual is saying they're contacted by the police department and they need to pay the funds, via Bitcoin. So they need to pay a fine to avoid, being detained or arrested. And that's just simply not true. I would encourage anyone to, like, if you're unsure or it doesn't sound right, you can you can contact us and ask, hey, I'm told to take out this cash and put it in the Bitcoin to, pay my fine, right? We'll tell you that that doesn't make sense, right? Or I need to buy gift cards um, to get someone out of jail. We'll tell you that that is not a legitimate, means of paying. Welcome, PD will obviously tell you that information as well. So cash is very prevalent target right now. Um, just urging everyone to be wary of those types of requests.
Absolutely. And just going back to the cash category, also what the trends right now, it appears that the fraudsters are directing their or instructing their victims to give different reasons for the large cash withdrawals. It could be for a home improvement project. It could be to purchase a car, private party, private sale car, but if that's legitimate, you know, you should readily have available either the home improvement, your contractor's invoice, you should have, a DMV work for the vehicle that you're purchasing. But those are the reasons to give your bank, for withdrawing such a large amount of cash. But yeah, the fraudsters will definitely coach you, and sometimes they'll even ask their victims to listen in on that transaction, that cash transaction, while you're in the bank, in your branch. So there's multiple ways, multiple reasons why they're how they're instructing their victims. Real life case studies, a helpful neighbor. Yeah, we've had these too. You have a member that is very helpful and wants to help you with your finances. And then, this trusted person, this trusted neighbor, you end up giving them access, to your account, and now they have balances, and they're looking at statements, and we definitely want to make sure that whoever's helping you, as the affectionate caregiver, also category, whoever's helping that protective class member, that protective class citizen, is really a true helper. It's not somebody that's going to take advantage of that person and start accessing the money, by different means, debit card, writing checks, things like that. So those definitely are scenarios that you want to make sure that they are true, that they are legitimate and true. The tech support scam, the members will get pop-ups stating that they have an infected computer, and that they're going to have to renew their, they want to remote
Antivirus, or yeah.
antivirus. Exactly. They'll ask to remote into your computer, and that if you give them that permission, they now can view all of your account. They can view every penny of the account. They can view your loans that you have with that financial institution, you don't want to give someone access to remote into your computer while you're online viewing your account. So that is definitely a scenario that you want to avoid. And what they'll usually do is once they have access to your account, they're able to view your balances. They now know exactly what to ask, how much to ask for. So if they saw that money market, that had $20,000 in it, they know exactly that they want to ask for $20,000, and they'll follow through and instruct you to withdraw $20,000. So we definitely you want to avoid from them giving access to your computer remotely. Stephanie, did you want to add on to that?
Oh, no, yeah, I think it's very common, scenarios here, but we see a whole slew of different, ways that individuals are targeted. Really it's about protecting, your information, protecting that card, protecting your credentials, protecting your computer, from access. And the unfortunate, reality is that, anyone could be targeting you, not just some random person, trying to exploit you and withdraw your funds. Sometimes we see that from, you know, as it points out here, caregivers, neighbors, families, so-called friends, right? So, it's very important to, be on the lookout for that. And if you're attending for your own, education, or attending to as a potential victim, or tending to educate yourself, to family and friends who might be more vulnerable to this type of fraud. It's important that you're helping to look out for those cues as well. So if they mentioned, hey, my neighbor stopped by and helped me pick up help me with the groceries, if that were my mom or grandparent or family member, I would certainly be asking questions. Who is this? How well do you know them? Like, introduce me, right? Like, get engaged, and understand, what's happening to the full extent as possible. So we have just some, tips on how to protect yourself or your loved ones. And, primary item here is going to be stay connected, right? Stay, and if you don't have anyone, stay connected with the credit union, right? Look at your accounts with us, talk to us. When we ask you questions, we want to know our members. We know our frontline especially has really good relationships with our members. And, that's super helpful for us as well to help protect victims of fraud. Monitor your accounts, don't if you need to monitor it more regularly, don't depend on the statement coming, once a month. Help, talk to us about getting set up with online banking, or to monitor your accounts through the phone, or call us on a regular basis to go through your activity. As far as caregivers, it's important to vet caregivers. We always encourage and involve, trusted family and friends, to help you with that process, with that vetting process. And then lastly, report the fraud. This is where our team typically is heavily involved in encouraging that you report those incidents to law enforcement. I know, Denise and her group have an obligation, to send it to Adult Protective Services and, send reporting that way. But as a victim, you're within your right to report that to law enforcement as well. We don't have very specifics on here on how to report, but call your local police department and they'll, instruct you accordingly. Sometimes if the fraud does happen through the phone or online, they'll typically refer you to report with the FBI. And you could either do that by calling, or typically filing an online report through ic3.gov. So we highly encourage that. And even if you're not a victim, as in you didn't incur a loss, right, a financial loss from them, to Denise's earlier point, document, right? Document who's calling, who they pretended to be, and report that. report that to the authorities because every lead helps, right? Or report that to the agency or company that they're impersonating. It helps even if it didn't result in a financial loss. And I always encourage to do that as timely as possible. As you can imagine, if funds are lost, there's a very, very narrow window to try to recover. And those recovery rates are often very minimal. We personally work with the FBI pretty regularly, San Diego PD, the various sheriff's departments, in state, out of state, depending on when it occurred. And that's always the primary message is, do we have a report? Is there a report that we can start working off of? And as the victim, the victim has to file those types of reports to get that started.
And before we go further,
Go ahead.
just one little recommendation. What we do recommend for our protective class members is to, if to add a trusted person, a trusted relative, a trusted friend as a joint member to your account or as a power of attorney. That trusted person in your life, once added to the account, doesn't, it could, if by chance we couldn't contact you and we detected suspicious activity on your account, we could reach out to that person. We want to intercept any type of fraud that's happening immediately as soon as possible. So that is one thing that we would recommend if you feel comfortable and you have a trusted person in your life that you can add to the account as joint or as POA. Do so because it does help us in the long run. If by chance we have that situation where we can't contact you, or we just can't, we can't figure out what the onset of this activity that's never happened in your account before, we can contact that other person.
All right, so I know here we're just listing, this is towards the end of our slide, our presentation here, but here's some resources and support. Obviously, there's many more than this, right? Your local law enforcement, FBI, as I mentioned before, happy to share that with you if you need that type of information. But I believe we're going to share this will. It will be available to reference later on if that helps. But to contact these agencies to report fraud. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the credit union has an obligation to report, any sort of financial fraud against elders that we detect, right? But highly encourage, don't rely on the financial institution to report it. If you're experiencing it directly or have a family or friend that is experiencing it, to call and report the activity. And that's going to be the end of our slides here. So I think we're going to open that up to Q&A, Will.
Yeah, Stephanie, Denise, thank you so much. That was a lot of good information, different ways that our seniors are being exploited. We do have a couple of questions coming in. Just a reminder, everybody, that if you do have a question, please utilize the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen as we answer some of these questions. Question came in. I've seen pig butchering scam mentioned in the news. What exactly is that? And is it something that we should be aware of?
Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, pig butchering. What it is the scammers will set up a Bitcoin purse, and it can be with any cryptocurrency company. But what they'll do is they'll set up a purse for you, an account, and they will cross-sell an investment, an incredible investment, high yield, high returns, They'll direct you to deposit your investments into this cryptocurrency wallet. And they're not small amounts. What we've seen in cryptocurrency in pig butchering scams is large amounts. It's they try to go for as much money as possible. And what they do is it's very fast. Individuals will wire funds to that cryptocurrency wallet. Usually they're high dollar amount wires. They're back to back, day after day. And then once pretty much once they know that they've depleted as much money as they can from that victim, the scammers will empty out that wallet completely. And then you're left with nothing. You're left with actually absolutely nothing. And the reason why it's called pig butchering is it's because when it's as if you're fattening up a pig to slaughter it. That's why it's called pig butchering. So they're fattening up that wallet, trying to get as much as they can out of that one victim, and then in an instant, the funds will be depleted, and then our members, the victims, are left with nothing. There's
Yeah.
Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
going to add to that as far as, you may be targeted to invest in these crypto, currencies, right? Either through wire or, a withdrawal of some sort to fund that account, Bitcoin machines, as I had mentioned earlier. But, we've heard of instances too where individuals are investing into a reputable cryptocurrency company, seemingly under all in their name, right? But someone is helping to mediate that transaction. But turns out the crypto wallet, it is set up in your name and with your information. But guess who has access to all of the credentials? Guess who has direct access to that? They set it up. They have the login information. Therefore, anything that's getting funded from your account to that cryptocurrency is within their complete control. And to Denise's point, that's when they completely drain it, right? They might send you a fake statement showing you, maybe not even a fake statement, a legitimate statement showing you that the funds are in there, right? That everything seems to be kosher, but they have complete control over that. So, that's been an unfortunate situation because things may look legitimate, but, someone else is involved is usually the key red flag there.
Thank you very much for that. Another question came in. What are some of services that CalCOS can provide that could help us protect our accounts?
Yeah, so we do quite a few things. Obviously the education efforts too. I think the biggest impact is staying aware of the trends, right? Reading the information. So not just, generic fraud scams and alerts and warnings that, may not directly impact your accounts here, staying on top of that, but involving your accounts here, we try to put as many safeguards as possible to protect your accounts. For instance, when it comes to your online banking, right, you may get a one-time passcode, saying that this is for access to your account. If you're getting that type of alert and you're not prompting a login, right, it's instructed that you contact us and let us know. We do have a lot of protections like on the card side, right? We have card alerts to alert you behind, that's something we design and build to alert members if we suspect anything, to read those communications carefully, because often they'll say, we see a transaction coming through for X amount. Did you authorize that? Read it, and respond accordingly. Do not take the direction of anyone trying to contact you and influencing you to respond a different way. But beyond that, we do also have a series of alerting options through your online banking that you can enable. If you want to know if your balance drops or if you have international authorizations come through, there's quite a few array of those. And then, with certain accounts, there is an additional ID theft protection solution. They're NXG strategies. So help we're more than willing to help coordinate that contact if you think that maybe your, elder abuse situation may have led into like an identity theft situation as well.
Yeah, I agree. And just like I stated, if by chance you needed or you wanted to add that trusted person to your account, that's also a safety net that we can use. We want our members, and this goes for all financial institutions. We want you to confide, and we want you to trust your financial institutions, not the stranger on the other line. We are here to help you, to assist you, to walk you through. So, if it's just a question or any concerns that you might have, we're definitely here to help you.
Thanks, Denise. Do we have Spanish-speaking employees that can assist our members that speak Spanish?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. Yes, we do. And in fact, we're going to have soon. We're going to have some materials, education materials for our protected class members in Spanish that'll be available at the branches. But yes, we do have Spanish speaking personnel.
Great. Question came in about the toll booth text messages that we're all getting, and you're not alone. I'm getting those as well. Should we report those to the police, cell phone provider? I mean, do we report those, or do we just kind of ignore and delete?
Absolutely. And actually, we recently just were made aware within about the last 24 hours that, this is also spanned into DMV, they're impersonating the DMV right now. They're saying that not you haven't paid your toll, but you haven't paid your vehicle registration. We're going to revoke your license, right? Obviously, creating that sense of urgency. I know DMV is recommending that you report that to them directly. And again, collect as much details as you can, because oftentimes in that case, the victim is also that entity, right? California DMV is now being a victim of fraud because someone is impersonating their company, and they can report that to the authorities as well. Now, obviously, if you're in a loss position, and are a direct victim in that regard, absolutely report that to the local authorities.
Okay, thank you. Another question. What do you say to members who feel embarrassed or ashamed about being scammed and don't want to report it?
Think that the main message there is no one is immune to fraud. No one is immune to scams. It happens much more often than you think. You're not alone in that situation. We hold no judgment. Again, I mentioned earlier, we understand how sophisticated these scams are becoming, right? So it's hard to say don't be embarrassed, but also, think of the others that you can impact by sharing your story, right? Sharing it to PD and your credit union allows us to compile, trends and share that with the collective membership, right? To give them a heads up. And same with PD, giving them leads on who's behind all of this might help them to stop or deter that. So, and again, you're not alone. Please don't be embarrassed. It happens we see all walks of life. We see very educated individuals, of all education backgrounds, all ages, all ethnicities. It happens to everyone. We get targeted. We may even, I can see something and rush through it and not read it all the way and see a link and might click on it and not realizing what's, that was a malicious link. So yeah, we just encourage that you tell us, and the sooner that you tell us, the sooner, we can react to that, and the sooner we can, get law enforcement involved and maybe increase our chance of recovery too.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate when our members let us know. We've had members that have informed us that they did fall victim to a scam, and then we'll walk them through the whole process, and we'll guide them. And that we've had members that have said, I almost fell victim to a scam. And so we appreciate those reports. We gather all the information as we can, and as Stephanie said, we report it accordingly.
Excellent, thank you. You had mentioned if a member would come in and with someone that we don't know, and we ask them to sit down aside so we don't discuss any of that information. We had a member come in that opened up a co-conservatorship or a guardianship for their loved one, but unfortunately we weren't able to open the account. They have a question about, is a power of attorney a better option than having the conservatorship? They were just kind of confused on that because we had mentioned to put a power of attorney on the account.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the situation. It is situational and depends on, sometimes how, if the individual is experiencing cognitive decline, you may want someone with more access, right? More visibility, on a day-to-day basis with the account activity. So it really depends on the situation, what's more appropriate, but conservatorship is definitely an alternative as well.
Yeah, it's really that person's decision how they want to go about adding that other person onto the account. There's multiple ways, but we can definitely go over that with our members. But it is an individual's decision on how they want to go about it.
Thank you. Last question came in about caregivers. How do we vet caregivers? What can we do to protect our seniors from caregivers exploiting seniors?
Yeah, so it depends on the situation here, but a lot of these are publicly registered with the state, as caregivers, or maybe we could vet the company. We could help, maybe not help vet the company, right? But first question is, who's the caregiver through, right? Are they through the state? Are they through a private company? How well established is that private company? It, off I know there's very strict, high regulation on those caregivers being vetted too, and if they are involved in any sort of or elder abuse, right? Reporting that is key so that there's that record on file of potential abuse or threat to the public in that way, in that capacity at least.
We've had members that have had longtime caregivers, and they're known to the branch staff, and but we've had members that have had turnover with caregivers, and in that instance, we do not want to be sharing our members' information with all those different people. They shouldn't be privy to any of the information of our, the account and information and so forth. So we're very protective of our protected class members, and that's the example that I give you. At times, we'll have them take a seat in, the caregiver will drive them to the branch, help them walk up to the teller, and then take a seat in the lobby, and then we can go ahead and attend our member, face to face. But yeah, there's different scenarios. We've
And
come
another
across all of them.
great resources. I mean, simply call California Adult Protective Services too. This is what they do. They have a lot of resources, within their realm, and can kind of point you in the right direction as well. So that's another resource.
Final question. Aside from caregivers, what are you seeing are the common ways that seniors or anybody is being contacted and scammed? How are they getting in touch with our members?
I personally see a lot of romance scams still. That's usually, targeting lonely individuals, trying to establish that relationship long term. But recently, a big spike in, similar to these toll road scams, they're unsolicited calls, right, from IRS, FBI, your PD saying you're going to be arrested. It's more of that fear, right? And that is leading to a lot of cash withdrawals, and those authoritative figures are showing up to their doorstep and requesting, getting that cash to pay a fine, to avoid, sentencing, what have you. They're putting a lot of fear because that's likely a bit quicker to execute on, right? If you get them to react on a fear-based situation, take the cash out, give it to me, you won't, to avoid arrest, versus those romance scams, which are typically take years to establish that trust, right? I think the fraudsters are trying to find the quickest avenue for financial gain.
So I think the question is are they getting contacted through social media? Is it text messages? Is it phone calls? What are you seeing that's more common?
A lot of phone calls, a lot of conversations are happening. The social media, we see more of that stemming from, or romance scams stemming more from social media outreach. They create a false account. Someone, and trust, a friend, they'll mimic their profile and then reach out to you through like that messenger app and say, hey, it's me, I'm in a rut, I need help, or hey, I know you trust me for a long time. I want to, get partner with you for this investment, right? So depends on those situations. Will depend on the avenue, but a lot of the law enforcement one we just see simply being called.
Yeah, we see all the social engineering, phishing, smishing, vishing, spoofing, and they can they can be an individual can be prompted through an email, and then the phone calls start, and then so there's multiple tools that those scammers will use to try to make contact with their victims. And as soon as they make that contact, then that's when the coaching starts, and the instructions and so forth. But it can be any means, really, through any means.